Okay, welcome to the channel, everybody. Today we are finally there. It's time for Act 646 and to go find the Grandmaster and take him down. Now, a few things before we go into this I want to talk about. First off, this is going to be the longest episode of the entire Thronebreker series by far. This is cut down dramatically. In previous videos, you've seen me start to do the trend of I'll make sure the entire fight is there for you, but we speed up the fights so that they go by a little faster. Once we get to the Grandmaster, we're going to speed it up even more than we ever have before because it's going to need to go by a lot faster. I took breaks during this, which I do advise doing. The other thing that I am going to 100% advise, no matter the pass, no matter the nodes, no matter your champions, no matter any of this, what I want to 100% advise is, first off, I want you guys to realize that what you guys are going to see is my very first time ever facing the Grandmaster in any way, shape, or form. I had watched videos, I had checked up on what the nodes were, things like that, just like you guys are doing now, but I had never faced him before. This is my very first attempt and the only attempt. I thought very much so about the idea, going back and revisiting him before I released this, but I wanted it to be the first one. I have always talked about the idea of my mistakes being important and you guys needing to see them. It's great watching people one-shot him or even take him down with a series of 5 champions, which is advisable. Bring yourself in a team that's designated for each of his phases to finish him off, and be prepared to be allowed to revive a few times. Don't feel embarrassed to need to do so. Secondly, do not do what I've done here. Do not revive anywhere near as many times as I did. If you are struggling in any of the phases, get to a point where you can clear the path with few to no revives. And then after you can consistently beat the path to get to the collector, take him one phase at a time. Start out. Get really good at phase 1. Once you've got phase 1 on lockdown, go into phase 2. If you're struggling in phase 2, come back in. Do it over and over again until you got phase 2 on lockdown. Then turn around and go on to phase 3. By phase 3, there's a good chance that, especially if you have the right champions, when you get to phase 3, that you can get him through to the end even without any more practice. Especially if you practiced enough in phase 1 and phase 2, you should be pretty safe for phase 3. On a first time attempt though, if you pull this one off, I give you all props in every way, shape, and form, and you deserve it, okay? But be prepared. Just go back in, get him a few times, practice up. Now, keep in mind also, on top of that, the day that I recorded this, I spent all day the day before, spending 6 hours recording levels. I then worked all night, got up the next morning, spent an additional 8 hours getting to the end of the Grandmaster fight. By the time I got all the other levels recorded, and then turned around and did this level, I was completely exhausted. I was completely wiped. If you don't believe me, go check the live stream from that night. It completely wiped. But this is not excuses. I just want you guys to remember that these are factors when you go to play these levels. Be at your peak performance. Be ready to face them. Be ready to do what you need to do. Be rested. Also be prepared that if you're struggling, either come back or take a break for a few minutes and then come back to it. There's no shame in that. There's no time limit on this. Be reasonable. Make sure that you can do it with the supplies you have put together and are ready for yourself. Set yourself a number of units, set yourself a number of potions, revives, and go in. Have your team ready. Speaking of teams here, you're going to see right off the bat here, this was the initial concept for the team. I did end up switching Longshot for Loki. The other mistake I did make here, one of the ones that I want to point out even before we get to the Grandmaster and I show you the real mistakes. My plan when I switched Loki and Longshot around was that by the time we got to the Grandmaster, I would be switching Loki out for Hulk. That way I had Hulk in with the Overseer synergy to handle phase 3 of the Grandmaster. We're going to talk about the 4 phases of the Grandmaster and why that's important here in just 1 second. But I want you to keep in mind that having Loki in for the Grandmaster was not part of the plan. Again, I was wiped out and I forgot to revive Loki before I got to the switch point. Loki does a lot of really good work here. We're taking the cosmic path here. So Doom, Tigra, and Loki, we're going to do all the path. Hercules and Hulk, along with Doom and Tigra, we're going to handle the Grandmaster. Not having Tigra and having Loki was a little bit, did throw off the plan a little bit, but we still go ahead and power through. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let's take a look at the nodes right off the bat first off. Now, the reason I picked the Cosmic Path, not only because of the fact that I had good Mystic champions to bring in here to deal with this path, but also on top of that, the buffs for the nodes for this particular path are very simple nodes. Most of it is, just health and attack boosts, things like that. But outside of that, you have buff duration increase by 40%, so they heal for a little longer. They are armor up for a little longer, those type of things. Not a big deal, easy enough to work around. And tenacity, which the defender has a 75% chance to purify any debuff. So again, if you're not placing a lot of debuffs, and like with bringing Loki in, especially considering some of these champions are on this path, it was so easy to just consistently be stealing their buffs that it actually benefited me more that they were getting them so often. So that is a thing to keep in mind. Also on top of that, the champions on this path, outside of 1 or 2 of them, most of them are very straightforward fights, very easy fights. Good Mystic champions, and you can walk straight through this. Pick your favorite Mystic team and get to the Grandmaster. That's the easy part. Let's take a look at who's on the path. Right off the bat here, we've got Phoenix, followed by Heimdall, Groot, Annihilus, Hela, Vision Arcus, Carnage, and then Captain Marvel movie, who are all under that path node. They're followed up by Angela, who is actually the one giving them all the buffs, who also is not that bad to deal with. She has Vigor and Aggressive Fury, meaning she's going to be constantly getting Furies but you can take those off as long as you're connecting with her constantly. And she's going to be regenerating 50% of her health every 15 seconds over a 5-second time period, though every time you get her to 25% blocks of health, so at the 75, 50, and 25, you actually reset that timer. So if you can consistently take good chunks off of her with somebody like Doom or Tigra, you can actually take away some of that regen timer, or do as I normally typically do with an Angela fight and just take in Loki and just steal all her buffs. It's really great for healing him back up, even if you go in wounded, because she gets so much regen and you just constantly take it. You buff yourself back up. You get healthy. I did screw up on this one and ended up going down, which is why I didn't have him alive when I needed him to be for the switch. After this, you're going to get a very straightforward and simple fight against a 4-star Sentinel that is a complete and total joke. There is no reason for it to be here other than the fact that it sends a link node to the Grandmaster. On this one, it's the opportunistic link node, which is a great one to get down. Every Sentinel around here, they're all very easy, straightforward fights. Takes absolutely nothing to do. You can take them down with any champion on your team that you got through that path without a problem. And then, like I said, you have the character switch node available to you as well. Great time if you brought in your team specifically for the path to bring in somebody that is specifically for the Grandmaster and get rid of that path player that you know isn't going to do the work. Like I said, switching Loki for Hulk was the intention. Then we go over to the Grandmaster here. Now this particular fight is a 4-phase fight. The last time we saw this was the champion fight at the end of chapter 6.3, so it's similar to that. His first phase goes from 100 to 80% health. What you need to do is parry and dex until he bans both. Okay, takes about 4 or 5 times of getting each of them on, and he's going to ban them. You're going to have to be careful because obviously in the process of getting a parry, you may pick up a dex and banned it, then you will take a blunder charge. Anytime you get 5 blunder charges, he instantly gets up to a special 3 and the fight is over. So watch out on that. But if you go for those parry and dexes first and get them out of the way, then it's easy, because after that, the last thing to get banned is your light hits. Once you get your light hits banned, he's going to go into an SP1, which becomes a mini game. He's either going to have you dash, stand still, or attack. If you get through all of that without dying, he becomes vulnerable for 8 seconds. During that 8 seconds is your time period to do all the damage you can possibly do. You actually hit for even stronger during that time period. So if you've got a tank player like a Hercules or a Hulk where you can just pound into him, you'll see during this, even at some of the bad points, when I get it right, it's 30,000 points a hit that I'm getting on him. So you can take some good sized chunks. Mind you, keep in mind, he has 9 million health to start with. So even at 30,000, they're sizable amounts, but you're still going to have to pound through him for a while to get to the different phases. Secondly, we go into the Tansposition phase, which is from 79 to 30% health. Now, there's a few things to keep in mind here. After that, once you get into this phase, he's going to randomly start calling out things for you to do. You're going to watch for those to pop up on the screen. As long as you get 5 of them correctly before you get 5 of them wrong, then you will again put him into that SP1, do the mini game, and have open vulnerability, this time to be able to do damage to him for 7 seconds. Now, this is the longest phase. Like I said, from 79 to 30% of his health. So you're going to be doing this one for a while. Be prepared. This phase itself may take 2 or 3 champions to get through, even at your best gameplay. Obviously, when you see me do it, it's going to take a lot more than that. So be prepared, guys. The other thing to keep in mind is from this phase forward, he becomes stun immune. Next, we're going to go into the Zuggwang phase, which is phase 3, which lasts from 29 to 1% of his health. Now, at this point, he is every 8.5 seconds going to call out a different thing for you to do, just like he did in phase 3, but this time it will be either strike his block, perform a dash back, stand still, knock him down, or parry. Now, the other thing to keep in mind during this phase, he is you have to deal with inverted controls. Now, this makes Hulk actually invaluable in this phase for a couple different reasons. One of the ones that's going to be a major factor here is the knock him down. You need a consistent way to do it when it pops up. And if you've got a special one on standby at the time that comes up, it's an easy way every time to consistently knock him down. That comes into play big time. Plus, on top of that, Hulk is actually immune to inverted controls as long as you have the Overseer synergy, which makes Hulk a great opportunity here. He's a heavy hitter. He has an easy way to knock him down on command. And on top of that, too, he's immune to inverted controls. So this is a great opportunity. So take a chance, look at OG Hulk, Immortal Hulk, along with Joe Fixit. Any one of these three are part of that synergy. Obviously, the better two being OG Hulk or Immortal Hulk. Now, the final phase is the 1% of his health phase. For 18 seconds, he is going to go unstoppable and indestructible. Okay? You gotta avoid him for 18 seconds. If he touches you in any way, shape, or form during that 18 seconds, you're done for. But if you can get through that 18-second timer, watch that thing tick all the way down, you'll instantly get your own special 3. You can trigger it off and win the match. That's all it takes, folks. 18 seconds, stay on the bull, win it all. So let's go ahead and get in here and take a look at what this looked like for me. Again, the path goes pretty straightforward. I do have a couple blunders in there, not that big of a deal, but we get through the path fairly quickly. Again, I advise getting yourself to the point that you can do that path with less than 5 revives. If you can do that, you can easily enough get to the Grandmaster with everybody in a good position, walk in there and practice each of the phases until you're comfortable with at least phase 1 and phase 2, because by the time you're done with that, if you've done it 5 or 6 times, 10 times, whatever it takes to get yourself practiced up, then I feel it's a lot easier to be able to turn around and get through that third phase and get to that final phase where it's just 18-second ride and we're out, baby. Okay, so right off the bat here, we got Loki into this first fight. I told you, I switched out long shot for him, knowing very good and well that a lot of the champions on this path are ones that I traditionally, Angela, Hela, some of those champions are ones that I'm always about using Loki to go up against her. Go against them, I should say. Phoenix is another great one. They all have so many decent buffs that you can steal off them. Plus, on top of that, you can keep yourself alive. Groot, another one. You can just keep yourself going through the fight, get to the end. You can see here, I don't always play it perfectly, and obviously I'm using a 565 5-star. He is SIG 200, so he's not doing as much power as if I were using a SIG 200 565 or even a 200 rank 3 6-star, which would give me a lot of opportunity here. But even with the beginning of the fight going a little rough here, you can see where I turn around and put up a solid combo here and am able to go even with little health and walk through the rest of this fight and end up finishing her off. Now we go ahead and go on to the next fight because it's a great opportunity. Again, we got Heimdall in there. And so with Heimdall, we brought in Tigra here because of the fact that, obviously Loki's wounded, could not necessarily do any buff steal that would take care of that. But Tigra in herself is, great, especially considering Heimdall's special 2 there being a ranged attack. So that does give me the ability to avoid that as long as I avoid the SP1 by not coming in too quickly, which obviously you saw I did that a couple times. But even with that being said, we're getting some rupture charges on him, keeping him shut down and getting him taken out. We're almost through this already without hardly taking too much damage. And so this made it quite easy enough. I think about the only thing that I would have liked to have done differently, I would have still brought in Loki. I just would have preferred to have had my 6-star just because of the fact that it would have lessened some of the time on some of these fights here. Now, going into the Groot fight here, still wounded, knew that was going to be a thing. I did that on purpose. Obviously, Groot has regen that he typically triggers quite often. As you can see here, I've stolen his buffs repeatedly, and I have not been able to catch a regen off of him yet. But we're still just walking through him and getting the fight over. Went ahead and finished it. Nyla's fight here, again, bring Tigra in, let her go ahead and do her thing. He's got a lot of range attacks here, and if we can get on the heavy, we can normally keep him down, but it didn't go exactly according to plan, so Doom it is. So get Doom in here, and I mean, I've talked about it before. I'm getting better with Doom. Obviously, this was all recorded at the beginning of the month, so almost a month ago, and I've had a lot of really great tips on how to use Doom a little better. So we'll be revisiting him more, but he's still one of those things that if you don't play him right, you can't play him to his full potential by any means. But he's just such a powerful character that even if you don't do it exactly perfectly, you're probably still going to win. Now, here was a mistake that I made as well. Now, fighting Hela with Loki is great, but she does have a large health pool. What I should have been more looking to do, instead of bringing Loki in for the first one, especially being that we were working with the 5-star here, I should have went ahead and either brought in Doom or Tigra and let them do 95 to 99% of the work. Okay, because Hela does have that last 1% immortality that you have to survive through. Obviously, if Doom or Tigra had finished her, wouldn't have needed to have Loki as backup by any means. But worst case scenario, if I had to come back in with her at an instant indestructible, I could have just turned around and stolen it off of her and finished her off instantly. So I could have finished up that fight so much quicker and so much easier. By this point, we've got everybody wounded anyway, so in spite of the fact that Hercules is primarily supposed to be for the Grandmaster fight, no reason not to go ahead and pick up a few charges, a few feats of strength, and have those in prep ahead of time. So went ahead and brought him in here for Venom. Yeah. So we went ahead and brought him in here for the Vision Age of Arcus and did most of the work. I do believe just because I just watched, I wasted the immortality and didn't finish him off there, but had Doom come in and finish him, revived everybody back up again, and let Tigra finish off Carnage here. This isn't going to be too dramatic by any means. Pretty much did the heavy intercept for the most part, as opposed to getting too far up on him, which could have probably drove this fight down a lot faster. But, we still... took the special 3 on that one. Forgot that I did that. So we brought Doom in for the finisher here. Obviously, Tigra did more than her fair share of this fight, and there's very little chance of Doom not finishing it. So Captain Marvel movie, bringing in Doom was not the best of ideas, to be truthful with you. If I was better at Doom, it really wouldn't have mattered, but the problem is of course, with Doom's shock charges, powering Captain Marvel movie up to her 25 charges is real easy to do if you do it. And so we did. So we brought in Hercules here to finish it off. And that's pretty much all she wrote, folks. Obviously, once you go into the mortality with Hercules, if you play it right, you can pretty much finish it. Again, like I said, bringing in Loki for the Angela fight means I just sit here and heal myself up over and over again, which makes fighting her a lot easier, because if you don't have to deal with her regenerating as much, you don't have to worry about it. It does make it a lot easier to tolerate the fact of the difference between my 5 and this very well powered up 6-star. But it's still a long fight here, and we are literally one mistake away from losing it all. And as you can see repeatedly here, I timed my special wrong and almost didn't get back to the regen whatsoever there, which hurt, because not only did she get a chunk of it, but we didn't get nearly as much as we needed to have a chance of staying alive and finishing the fight. So we had to bring Herc in. I didn't even bother to power him up because I figured I could do most of the damage I needed to before she would set me into a mortal, and I could just finish it off from there. But it didn't quite go that way. So we brought Loki back in one more time. This one obviously does not go as smooth as I would like it to. Otherwise, Loki would have been alive when I needed him to be to switch out to Hulk. Which is bad because if you watch this, it's going very beautifully to begin, and then I push her too far, get her to the SP2, slip up, and take it. So we had to bring Hercules back in, and obviously she's so far down at this point that it doesn't matter. And we have our 12 feats and the Sentinel fight, which, like I said, is an absolute joke, so there's no reason to even care. So now we go on to the switch here where, like I said, you can see I don't have Loki revived. He's the only member of the team not alive, so when I need to switch him out for Hulk, I can't do so. And I can't go back because I'm already in, so I have to sacrifice a Tigrette to get Hulk in, and I need Hulk for this. Okay, guys, so we basically just start off right off the bat going through everybody kind of to try and get a feeler out and see how I can get this done. Now, you can see here repeatedly right off the bat, I'm causing blunder after blunder because I'm not doing what I need to do. Like I said, right off the bat, work on getting the parries because you'll stumble into the dexes in the process. If you can get the parries and the dexes out of the way, then you can go after the light hits. Obviously, he's going to be punching on you the whole time, so it's not exactly easy to do every time. It takes timing, it takes getting used to it, and this is why, like I said, don't be embarrassed or afraid to try this 2 or 3 times. Come back repeatedly, get used to phase 1, and then try phase 2 until you get used to it, and then go for your actual run to defeat him. Okay, as you can see, Loki is pretty much a waste every time that I bring him in. I just can't get the timing down with him, and he has so little health. There was the first time that I actually got the timing down right and got to it, but unfortunately I'd already screwed up so much that when I took the first one of those hits, I went down. You see it again there the second time. That's the mini game I'm talking about. If you can get the 3 task out of the way to get to that SP1 and get to that mini game, which I believe, no, it's not this one. It's going to come up here again soon that I get the first time that I actually get to him and do damage. Primarily, I'm at the point right now in this particular fight that Doom, Hercules, and Hulk are doing all the work. The only reason I continue to keep going back to Loki and Overseer is not because I think either one of them are going to pull it off. It's because of the fact that if I make sure they're down before I get to Doom, then he's even stronger because everybody else will be down. So I make sure Doom and Nick Fury are those ones that you need to make sure that they're the last 2 that go down if you're going to have your entire party go down. So Doom. Okay, see right here is the first time that I actually get it off. Still catch a couple blunder charges there, but I actually get that 8 seconds where I'm able to do some damage to him. This one wasn't the most impressive one, but I turn around and we bring in Hulk here and I pull it off again. We got the parries out of the way, which was the easy thing. Okay, that's not the one I pulled it off with. There's one here very shortly that I pulled off with Hulk. And that's the first time you're going to see truly impressive numbers. So often do I get to it. The biggest thing, and the reason why I wanted Tiger in, is because when he starts that SP1, the first part of it is that laser beam that comes all the way across. And I knew if I could trigger things properly, bounce back, go into her heavy, I could avoid that and then get to the mini game. The hard part is with all these big bulky champions, dexing that initial blast from the SP1 is really honestly a pain, and it's so easy to get caught by it. And once you get caught by it, then you get stunned, and it's unless he happens to give you stand there 3 times, which he's not going to do. You're probably going to take blunders from it, and then by the time you get the stun off of you, you're not going to have time to get over there and even get any damage done on him. So, I mean, getting this phase right is extremely important, because you are talking, like I said, the first 20% of his health. It's quite a chunk. Now, obviously, the second phase is even more so important to get it right, because with the second phase, then you're going to turn around and it's 40% of his health. So, I mean, it's quite a bit on some of these phases. You can see here, we're trickling him down. It just continues on and on like this. I mean, I'm getting better, and this is my point. This is where I advise it. You can see here, you start seeing the more often that I at least get him to that SP1, get him into the wounded, get a little bit of damage into him, and then end up getting too caught up in it and end up getting too many blunders and pushing him over to that SP3, so that I get to watch that dice roll over and over and over again. Um, and this is also why I said, guys, if you get too frustrated on this fight, either, especially, if you haven't made it through the first phase, take a break, come back to it, set your phone down, see if you can do better. If not, then you need to practice this phase a few times. Once you get this phase practiced down and you can consistently get yourself through this phase, then be ready to practice that second phase and get yourself through it. This is not an easy fight. Do not expect that you need to take it with no revives. Do not expect that you're going to have to take it with every champion being perfect and that you can do it the way the best of the best do. Okay, guys, so at this point, we just started healing everybody up all the way. That way we could continue to see if we couldn't do as much damage as possible. I probably should not have wasted the potions on Loki and Overseer, but I wanted to be, I should have just focused on Hulk, Doom, and Hercules. Again, exhaustion and playing for too long really started taking a toll on me. But I was just so trying to push through these phases, and I knew Hercules could take a beating. It was how much could he deal out before he went down. Same thing with Hulk. I probably could have done a lot better with Doom here if I was playing this today. This is also why I didn't re-record this. We'll be we will revisit these levels probably 6 months from now. First off, on the backup account eventually, but eventually we'll go back through and look at these for a completion run as well, and look at the difference on how well we've improved our skills and how much difference it could make on getting through him. But you're seeing even there with Loki, I started getting the pattern correct. This is what I'm saying is that if you just keep doing it over and over and over again, you'll get to a point that you can handle the pattern a little better. And once you get that first pattern consistent, then you can work on getting over to that next phase. Like we are here. We just kicked into that phase, I believe. Yes. So once you get into this phase, it's about watching what he's calling out. In the first one, you had to worry about the getting certain things banned. This one, you've got to make sure, again, he's going to call out challenges. It can either be whiff an attack, land a crit, perform an intercept, gain a buff, or inflict a damage effect upon him, which is also one of those things that you got to be careful, because you've got to have a champion that can inflict some kind of damage debuff upon him if that one happens to come up. So again, this is where, like I said, Hulk started being a little more invaluable to me, because, of course, if I needed to knock him down, special ones will do that and take care of that challenge. So we were getting our 5 praises or compliances over and over again. You do have a problem with, like, on that SP2, if you happen to punch him up to that and then you get standstill, the amount of damage you can take off of that, for half of your champions, is just not going to be survivable. So unless you have something like the Loki Heimdall synergy in there to kind of keep somebody alive, or Hercules in there for his immortality at the end, somebody like that can take the damage and still do the action properly, you're probably done at about that point. But you can see here too, you can still push him into that SP1 where you got to deal with the game again still. So be careful on that. You don't want to take blunder charges, guys. That's the problem. Getting good at that getting good at that first phase before, and so you can consistently do that. So if it comes up in the second phase, then again, that's one less thing for you to have to deal with. But you can see there, some of those hits that Hulk was getting on him there, 30,000 points at a chunk. And that's what we were looking forward to. Now, on a few occasions here, would we just go in there and get 1,000 to 2,000 points off him? Just because, oh my god, whatever, just go down. That's how it starts feeling after a while, is really, honestly. And especially if you're trying to do it in a certain amount of time, like I was that night. Like I said, we barely got him finished within 20 minutes of the time that we were supposed to be going live that night. And so, I mean, I had been playing all day. This fight took, I think by the time I got it all edited out, guys, when I looked it all over, once you take out all the cutscenes, everything else, or the loading screens, I should say, all the time spinning, the revives and potions, that type of stuff, just fighting alone was an hour and a half to do this one fight for me. To do the entire recording with the breaks, everything else, it ended up being close to 4.5 hours to get through this one run right here. I don't recommend that whatsoever. This fight itself is taxing as can be, and if it's going to take that much out of you, you want to be as fresh as possible. So it would have been bad enough on its own if, like I said, I hadn't spent the entire day before between filming for the channel and working that evening, and then getting up the next morning, and we cranked through 2 levels before we started this one, and so we were quite well exhausted, and just kept going. You can see here on more than a few occasions here, it's Hercules just continuing to get through this phase for us. Hercules and Hulk do more of the work than anybody by far. And I'm not even the best Hercules player, but I'm getting better with him, and I have a lot of really good reasons to get better with him, especially after the Gwynpool event. So this continues on, guys. I mean, this isn't going to be a short one, and I appreciate anybody who actually takes the time to watch this all the way to the end. There's a reason why I made sure all the information that you need is at the beginning so that you can have an idea. Feel free to skip around a bit on this one and see the spots where I start getting it right and the spots where I definitely get it wrong, because those will give you ideas. Learning from my mistakes is really something that's benefited me a lot. And if my mistakes can benefit you so you can get a little further into this, that's even so much the better. We stopped healing everybody up every single time by about this point, again, because we were going through so many units, and I'd already gone through a lot getting to this level, because I figured it wasn't going to take nearly what it did. And the couple times I went down on the path, we used up a few revives we didn't necessarily need to, that we could have used up here. We used up some potions we didn't need to, that we could have used up here. And this very well may go down in history as the most expensive, time-consuming attempt at the Grandmaster that actually got completed. I know for a lot of people, myself included, if it hadn't been for the channel, I would have given up by now. If I hadn't given up already on this fight and been like, nope, I'll try again another time, or nope, I'm just not there. I need to level my champions up more. But I wanted to get this done. I told everybody I was going to get it done for the channel. I knew when I wanted to get it done. I knew the other events that were coming up that it was important for me to be Thronebreker for. And on top of that, I wanted to show you guys what it looked like to just pummel through no matter what. Okay? This is why I tell you guys very much so, and I'm going to repeat this over and over throughout this. So, again, the more of this you watch, the more you're going to hear it. Go through each phase. Practice up with each phase. Practice getting through the path so that you use as few revives as you think that is appropriate. If that's 10 revives to get all the way through the champions on the path, and you know that you can farm up another 100 for the Grandmaster here, and that's what you feel it should take, do that. But turn around and get it to the point where you can get through that path and as few of revives as possible. And then just consistently get to the Grandmaster. Get yourself to a point that you can get that first 20% off in as few of revives as possible. Then do it as much of the second phase as you can. Come back, practice again, repeat. Just keep going, keep practicing, keep doing it differently until you get to the point that you can consistently pull down these fights and get through these phases. You'll see right there was a great fight, great example where it wasn't a huge chunk, but you definitely saw some move on his health. And that's what I was able to keep pushing through. Okay, and that's what I advise you guys to do is get yourself to practice so that you know how many potions and revives you're going to need. Know that if you need to revisit your champions, feel free to. Okay. By the time I do this the next time, obviously I will have better champions than I have right here. I already do. If you guys have seen any of the recent crystal openings, any of the current progression on things, I have a better setup now than I did a month ago by far. Obviously, the backup account will be working with a completely different setup because we don't spend on that account the way that we do on this one. We're not completely free to play, but we don't spend much on that one, and we definitely didn't do what we just did a week ago with that huge crystal opening on this account. We will be looking at what that account was able to pick up from, is going to be picking up from the Bubble Bobble store, as well as what this account is going to pick up from it on Sunday for the live. We will also be including both accounts for this week's crystal opening. So make sure you guys join us back for that one. As you can see here, we continue to beat on him quite a bit. It does take a while, guys, getting through these phases. It's not a short thing. It's not, even on a round that we do well and we can consistently do it. And actually, like you can see there, this was a good example round where we actually got through his test 3 times before ended up going down. Obviously, though, we just turned around and hit the blunder again and got special 3'd and went down. The challenges are one of those things that you need to be focused for. You really do. They're going to be popping up quickly. You're not going to be paying attention. And especially in that first phase where if you do something you've already done, you're going to rack up those blunder charges far too quickly. And right as you get to the point that you should have been able to deal damage to him, instead you're going to turn around and go down. You can see here, again, this is another one where we were starting to get better. This is what I'm talking about, guys. If you go in here and you practice several times before you decide that it's going to be the one that is going to be your run, you can get consistent enough at this. I mean, you can just see, even for me here, how much better I get as this fight goes on. This fight made me better by far, without a doubt, even with as bad as it went and as long as it took. But it is also one of those things that I was able to, get that practice in. I guarantee you I could do this better at this point, even if I had the ability to do it with the exact same champions at exactly the same level, just because of how much time it took me and how many times I screwed this up, and the fact that I'd be going in it a lot more mentally clear than I did by this point. We're still a chunk away from taking him down, but we are getting there. We are getting closer to that third phase, which that one starts going a little better for us. Obviously, by this point, we were over 3 hours into fighting him. Well, into fighting the level itself, I should say. It was 3.5 hours between breaks and everything else just to get him down. It was about 40 minutes to do the path, partially because I had a few things where I had to stop for this, that, or the other thing, which was mostly the fact that I had been going for so long. So stopped to grab an extra drink, stopped to, just stretch out the hands and get back into it. You play for 6 hours straight on this game and you will start to feel it. I don't advise it. I don't advise it at all. Though I know we've all done it, especially on a good arena run or something along those lines. I've heard some of the EOP content can be very long. I've seen some of the OG originals of our community on YouTube do extended live streams where they just play for hours on end. Some of the challenges that I've watched Brian Grant do, where he starts accounts and plays them for a single week. And, I think the first time I saw him do it, I think he took the account all the way to uncollected in a week. And I think the second time he took it to Cavalier. So, yeah, the strain and the wear is real, and I commend every one of these guys. And there will come a time that we'll do a challenge like that or something, just because I think they're really cool. And uh, as I don't know that I could do Cavalier in a week. I know I know you can easily get through the first 4 acts in a short amount of time. It'll kind of depend, if we get to a point that there's an amazing event that we want to see if we could take a huge advantage of as a brand new player. And I think that's what those illustrate great. Obviously there's going to be some huge events coming up. 4th of July is going to be our next one. We definitely wailed out for the Gwenpool event here. We started it, so we'll go ahead and continue it for 4th of July. We just got to get there. So, you can see here, guys, we're almost to that 30%. It's taken quite a bit of a drain on us to get there. We're getting better and better. We're avoiding the blunder charges a little bit more. Still making some mistakes, but still able to get in there and get the damage done, get to where we need to be. You're seeing some serious numbers there. I don't know if you caught that one, but there was a couple 20s and even a 50,000 points of damage. And that helped us push us over into the final phase, the inverted control phase. This one, again, it's the same thing, but what he's going to be doing is calling out different things than what it was before. Now you're going to be looking at strike his block, perform a dash back, stand still, knock him down, or parry. And what it's going to give you, if you can get 5 of them without getting 5 blunders, is you will actually turn around and get 5 seconds to do as much damage as possible. This is again where Hulk is useful. I tried to bring in Hercules to see if I could do it even with the inverted controls on. It wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible. It definitely needed to be Hulk. But obviously, like I said, I was tired. I was pushing it at this point, so we went ahead and tried it a few different times because I gotten so consistent with Hercules in phase 2 that the logic started drooling, I think. And we just weren't taking into consideration that the inverted controls were causing us more problems than we could handle, and that Hulk needed to be the one that I had to get the timing down with. He can pull off all of the things I need him to do, outside of the place a debuff. We again tried one time of just revive everybody and see who can do what. Absolutely not a great idea when you're dealing with inverted controls. But we got back to Hulk here, and we got the challenges going, and we made it through without a blunder, and we started getting things going really well. Then we took some more blunders, so we had to bring Doom in. I do know that we are coming up on the end of this. I know it's going to take a few more fights, because I can see where I'm at on the timer on this. But I do also know that when it does finally happen, Hulk is going to do what he was brought in here to do, which is finish phase 3 for us. By the way, guys, if you are not sick of watching him roll those dice by the time you get done with this, then you got through it in a lot less time than I did, and I commend you. You did great. So, got him down to 21%. At this point, we were celebrating every percentage point coming off. Like, if it was 1%, if it was 4%, it didn't matter. Getting him down to that last percentage is all that I wanted to see. And I was frustrated. I was extremely frustrated. I didn't even care if I was doing things right or not. I was just trying to get this last 20% off of him. Again, this is another time period that if I was talking to somebody, if somebody was telling me, hey, I'm at this point and I take a break, you are frustrating yourself and you are not going to, you're just going to waste your units. Maybe even revisit it. There's not a lot of fights that I will tell you guys to walk away from and come back and try again. This one is one of those. Learn the first phase, learn it well. You can see it comes up over and over again. If you can get good at that and then get consistent at that second phase, you can find your way into the third phase. And Hulk can do it. Hulk or Immortal Hulk can do it for you without a problem. If you have Overseer for the synergy, there are other champions that can do the inverted controls themselves, but I don't know that any of them have nearly the attack power that Hulk does. So I have a hard time recommending any of them. But if anybody would like to comment that it could be done quite easily with Professor X or Emma, some of the other ones that have inverted control resistance, let me know. I like I said, guys, I know this isn't perfect. We just went back to the point that it went to the well of who we needed to go with, and that was Hulk. And we got our percentages down, got him to where we, 1 to 5% around until we made enough blunders to have him finish us off and then revive and go back in. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't cheap. I'm going to let this exist on the channel for at least 3 days, and then the question has already been asked how many units I went through on this fight. After 3 days, I promise you I will put a pinned comment with the exact number of units that it was for me to get through the entire Grandmaster and actually achieve the Thronebreker title for just this level. Not the entire Act 6, not the entire Act 6.4, not just to get through this level alone. I will put that number in there, and I will guarantee you, I will, for anybody who goes back and checks those comments in 3 days and sees that number, you'll have something to say. Because it shouldn't have taken as many. If it starts taking anywhere near a quarter of the amount of units that I used on this fight, walk away. Walk away, practice the phases until you're good enough, and then do it. Don't even revive. Just get to the point that you can get through the phases off of your 5 guys. But as you can see there, that was the end. All we had to do is get that last 18 seconds, and that last 18 seconds was gorgeous. We did go ahead and pick Science here. I think it was mostly because Hulk won it for us, so we better be able to push him up further. I don't even know what my mindset was at that point, but we did finish it. We were in a hurry, and we got over to the live stream that night, and we got to see all you guys, and it was a great time. Even though I was a bit out of it, I appreciate you guys making it for this. If you stayed for the whole video, give me a shout out. Let me know. I appreciate every one of you. And if not, I will still see you guys back for the next one. Peace out.